Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Vivian and I'm an incoming medical student starting this fall semester. I've been sharing my pre-med journey through my Instagram for a couple of years now, and I've decided to start sharing this journey on YouTube. But first, if you want to see more of these types of videos, my MCAT experience, me being a pre-med at UCLA, transferring to UCLA, being an EMT, taking a few gap years, whatever it is, hit that subscribe button down below and check out my Instagram to keep yourselves updated on when I'll be uploading more content. Okay, now let's get started on the video. In this video, I'll be sharing my MCAT experience, the various resources that I used, and the study tips that I've gotten from it. All timestamps will be down in the description box below. So I graduated from UCLA back in June 2019, and I knew that I wanted to take 2 years off before I started medical school. So that really means that I'll be applying 1 year after I graduated, which also means that I only had 1 year to prepare and study for that MCAT. So I had to decide when was the right time that I wanted to start preparing and when I wanted to have my test date scheduled. So originally I had it scheduled for August, and I was just gonna start studying right after graduation up until August and take my test. Studying for the MCAT during the summer after graduation, I was not motivated. I wanted to relax and enjoy my time with my friends. So I knew that I wasn't really prepared for the MCAT, and at that point I realized I wasn't going to get the score that I hoped for. So I decided to postpone my test date to January. The beginning of October of 2019, that's when I started really grinding and studying for that MCAT, and which gave me ultimately 3.5 months until my test date in mid-January 2020. So I chose this timeline because it was still early enough before my application cycle, just in case I didn't get that score that I hoped for, and it gave me enough cushion to study and prepare and retake the MCAT. I think that's definitely something to consider when you're planning out your timeline for applying to medical school, because although you can apply without an MCAT score, most medical schools will not even look at your application until you have that score submitted. So for my content review, I mainly use the Kaplan MCAT book sets. I know other people who have used Princeton Review, Berkeley Review, any other third party will definitely do. You don't need both of them, you just need one. They all cover the same material that's going to be on the MCAT. I personally like Kaplan books. They did the job. They were very detailed in almost every topic, and it had really great graphic figures. Besides the Kaplan books, I took 4 full-length practice exams by Next Step Test Prep. They're now known as Blueprint Test Prep. I know that Kaplan has their own practice exams, and honestly, you can take either one. I just wanted some variety, but I do suggest that you guys take at least one third-party practice exam before you start taking any of the AAMC practice exams. So it is important to note that these third-party exams are a little bit harder in some sections, so they might not be as representative as the real MCAT questions, but it's definitely great practice to increase your endurance and test taking skills. The MCAT is a 7.5 hour long test, and that is including the breaks, but you have to stay focused the entire time and try to finish each section by the time limit. Although some of these questions on these third-party exams may be a little bit more difficult, it's still great practice to test your knowledge and your critical thinking skills. The next resource that I used was UWorld Question Bank. That is probably my favorite resource. So I bought the 90-day package that gives you access to over 2,000 MCAT questions that covers all 4 sections of the test. UWorld was definitely one of my favorite resources because I felt that their questions were fairly representative of what might be asked on the real test, and they had very thorough explanations on the correct and incorrect answers for each question. Some of the other resources that I used that were actually free were Jack Weston, which is a website that offers dozens of free cars, passages, and questions. And I also watched some YouTube videos by academic tutors like Khan Academy or Ninja Nerd Lectures to go over topics topics that I needed more help on. My last and final resource that I think everyone should use when they're studying for the MCAT is the AAMC practice exams and practice questions. The AAMC is the same organization that created the MCAT itself. So their practice tests and practice questions are going to be the most representative of the real test. I suggest that you guys start taking these no earlier than 1 to 1.5 months before your real test date. So those were all of the resources that I used when I was studying for the MCAT. I'll put some of the links to the websites down below. So I had 3.5 months to study for this exam, and I set up my study schedule in the beginning of everything, and I set it up where I would have 1.5 months of content review, and then the rest of the 2 months were just practice tests and practice questions, going over what I got right and wrong and what I need to improve on. I set up my study schedule first on a Google spreadsheet, and then I moved it onto Google Calendar. My study schedule kept changing practically every other week because some chapters I would get stuck on or take more time on because I needed more help, and so that would push my study schedule even further. But that's okay, because you shouldn't be rushing through chapters just to finish everything on time to meet your study schedule. You should just make a rough template in the beginning, kind of to measure out where you want to be at a certain date and when you want to start taking your first practice exam, and then allow yourself to just change up your study schedule whenever you need to. Remember, your study schedule is there to help guide you and keep you in check on how much progress you're making, but it's not there to rush you through your studies. Looking back at my MCAT experience, I definitely wish I took more time doing practice questions and practice tests than I did with content review. My thought process in the beginning was that I needed to know 100% everything page to page on all of the chapters in all of the Kaplan books before I could take any practice question or practice test, because I felt like I wouldn't be 100% prepared. But the truth is, content review is review. That's assuming that you took all the prereq courses before you're taking the MCAT. Reading and taking notes is definitely more of a passive learning experience compared to working on practice questions and tests. By starting on your MCAT practice phase earlier, you can assess your weaker areas and what you need improvement on. So what I might even suggest is just to start your MCAT practice questions concurrently in the last few weeks of your content review. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any more MCAT related questions, leave a comment down below. In next week's video, I plan on sharing how I studied for each section of the MCAT. And if you're interested in learning more about my pre-med journey, stay tuned for more videos. I'll be sharing all about my experiences going to community college, transferring to UCLA, graduating and taking 2 years off to work and volunteer, and ultimately how I ended up getting accepted to medical school. So thank you so much for watching. Happy studying and good luck. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you.